Welcome to Jazz Guitar Lessons Berlin. My name is Tina Jäckel. This is lesson number 54 and there's a new lesson every Monday, and today I'm going to talk again about the standard Ain't Misbehavin', and I'm going to show you the arrangement that I came up with. There's also another video on YouTube where you can find me playing through the whole arrangement. And there's also a free lead sheet for download at my website, and there you can also have a look at the chords that I'm playing. So the first thing that I did to make that tune easier to play on the guitar is I transposed the whole tune to D major. I stole that trick from CHORDS. There's a really great recording of CHORDS playing Ain't Misbehavin'. It's a live recording, you'll find the link below, and there's also a very good transcription, and there you'll find the link below as well of that solo he's playing. And there are also some bits I've taken into my own arrangement. I will talk about that soon. There are lots of 1-6-2-5 progressions in this tune, and I'm going to show you different ways how you can play a 1-6-2-5 progression. And there will be some substitute changes, and I will try to explain how you can recognize a simple 1-6-2-5 in its disguise of, for example, tritone substitute or diminished chord. So let's get started. The tune starts out with a D6, like this. You can play the melody on top. B7, E minor 7. That's already a very nice chord with the augmented 5. So in the beginning of the tune we already have a 1-6-2-5. 1, 6, 2, 5. Goes back to the tonic, to D6, and then we arrive at the A flat 7, 9, sharp 11. So it's the dominant 7th chord, the A flat 7, and it's just a tritone substitute for the D7. So if you play a D7 shell voicing and you raise the root tritone higher, then you get an A flat, and if you keep the rest of the voicing you still have a dominant 7th chord but with the A flat in the bass. So it's basically the same chord with a different bass, and this A flat 7 or the D7 as well leads to the G major 7, which is the 4 of the tune, and then to the C7, which is a 4 minor chord. There's 4 major, everybody knows that, in D flat, in D major. G major is the 4, and G minor is the 4 minor, and you can also play, instead of a minor 6 chord, you could play a minor 7 chord as well, or even a G minor 7 C7 chord, or you could also play only the C7 chord. So all those sounds are a 4 minor sound. G minor 7, G minor 6, or G minor going to C7, or only the C7. So it's always nice to know how chords are connected, and when you're looking at a standard, then you recognize the same chord progressions all the time. So 4 minor is one of them. Then we're back to D. There I put the F sharp in the bass, but it's still a D chord, D major chord. Going to the F7, so in this case I took the B natural dominant 7th chord and put the B, the root, up one tritone higher to the F. So it's a tritone substitute that I play here. So I play an F7 sharp 11 instead of the B7. You can hear the sounds are pretty close, right? So you have the D with the F sharp in the bass, the F dominant 7th sharp 11 going to the E minor, to the 2 chord, to the E flat 7, and that's, you already guessed it, it's another tritone substitute for the A7. So if you look for A7, raise the root again, be E7. And a nice effect of all those tritone substitutions is that you have a chromatically descending bass line, right? F sharp, F, E, E, E flat, back to D. So the second part is pretty much the same as the first A part, but in the end the melody goes a little into another direction and resolves to the D tonic chord, 4 minor, G minor 6, tonic chord, then a little 2-5 to B minor. So the B part starts in B minor, and you could play a really nice voice leading here like this, B minor, leading to B7, because you know the little 2-5 you play goes to B minor 7, then to G with B in the bass, that's just an inversion of G7, to E7 with B in the bass, to B7. And this B7 chord is still the 6th chord in D major, but it's also the 2 chord in A major, and that's where we're going now. All of a sudden, we're in A major, and A is the 1, 6, 2, 5, 1. And here we can also see a little trick. The 1 is transformed into a dominant 7th chord. That's one thing you can always do. If it sounds good, you can transform the 1 chord into a dominant 7th chord, and you can play some bluesy lines over it. That's the new tonality, A, 1. This diminished chord, a quick word about diminished chords, because everybody probably knows you can talk about diminished forever. There are two kind of diminished. The true diminished chord, that's a diminished chord in itself, and then the diminished chord that replaces a dominant 7th chord. And we're lucky, this diminished chord replaces a dominant 7th chord. And if you wonder which chord is replaced by this diminished chord, you can look at each note of the chord and think about the note 1/2 note lower, and then you'll find one possible dominant 7th chord that this diminished chord replaces. So if you start with the E, and it would go to E flat 7, you can see, if you learned your drop 2 voicings well, this is an E flat 7 chord. And the same goes for every note of the chord. You could lower each note 1/2 note and end up on a dominant 7th chord. Do that for yourself, and you'll figure out that this diminished chord replaces an F sharp dominant 7th chord. So we're back again in 1, 6, 2, B minor 7, E7, 5, 1 as a dominant 7th chord, going back to the 6th chord of D major, because we're going back to D major, E minor 7, and then we are in the last A part. So in the last A part, there are some things happening that I find pretty interesting. So the D6 chord, the 1 is still there. Then all of a sudden we have that E flat diminished chord. It's a diminished chord that replaces the B7 because you could play the B in the bass. You hear it, it's a B7 sound, and it's a dominant 7th chord with a flat 9 leading to the E minor 2 chord. And here it's another diminished chord. It's a true diminished chord. It means it does replace a dominant 7th chord. I'm not going to talk about that chord today. So in the last part, you will see there are some diminished chords that create a nice chromatically ascending bass line. D6, E flat diminished, E minor, F diminished, going to D. And that's my favorite part. We're back to the tonic, but the tonic again is transformed into a D sus chord. So we can learn, we can transform a tonic chord into a dominant 7th chord if it sounds good, and also in a sus chord. And this again is our D7 chord. It's a very nice voicing. To G major, G minor, and so on. I hope I could help you a little bit with these chords. Please write me an email if you have any questions. Have a look at my website, and I will be glad to hear from you. See you next Monday.